Welcome back to True Crime News. If you are new to our channel, welcome aboard. I'm your host Ted Corner. If you're interested in true crime in general, consider subscribing. Let's jump right into the news. While recording this video, I received the latest information in the case, so please watch the video to the end to get every detail. Timestamps will be pinned under the video, so you can jump back and forth among the informations. It has been reported that Chris should have admitted to killing his wife Shanann Watts after he had a heart-to-heart conversation with his father. Prior to the confession, Watts had changed his confession several times. At first, he denied knowing where his family was. He told he and his wife had an emotional argument prior to her disappearance with their children. But as soon as he was confronted with evidence of having an affair, he reportedly told he would tell the truth after he had spoken to his father. It was after the conversation with his father that Chris admitted to killing his wife, claiming she had killed the two little girls. He then told how he had hidden the bodies of his pregnant wife and his daughters Bella and Celeste where he worked. Watts was arrested and charged with first-degree murder of his wife and his daughters. Besides, he is charged with tampering with evidence. It has been reported that Chris Watts had submitted a request keeping it secret from the public who were seeing him in jail, but a judge has denied the request to keep the names of all his visitors under seal. The case took a bizarre new twist when his defense attorney objected to the demands made from the prosecution to turn over prints from Watts' hands and feet. Watts' argument for refusing to hand over the prints is because the prosecution hasn't stated why they needed the prints. It is said that based on the general nature of the pleading, Chris can't make out the government's need for swabs, fingerprints and palm prints, nor digital photographs. The chance of finding DNA evidence on Bella and Celeste is very little, due to the fact that their bodies were found almost 3 days after they were killed, and the fact that their bodies had been placed in a nearly full oil tank during the hottest month of the year. DNA evidence on Bella and Celeste could clear Shanann of the claim Chris made that his wife killed the daughters, but lack of DNA or trace amounts would likely mean that Chris's claim that Shanann killed the girls could depend on how he defends the allegations on the stand. At this time, there is a great deal of interest surrounding this awful case, but still, the cause of death has not been made public. The observations and findings contained in the coroner's autopsy report will be critical evidence at the trial. It has been reported that the alleged killer, Chris Watts, just has discovered that his case has become an international media sensation. Sources close to Watts has told how Chris has become frustrated with the coverage surrounding his family. The shocking details of the case made him the headline of the news. The pregnancy of his wife and him having an alleged affair made people think about the infamous case of Scott Peterson. Currently, Chris spends 23 hours a day in his cell. He is allowed to read a communal newspaper and to spend 1 hour a day in the common room. Chris was aware that his case was big in his own Colorado town. It wasn't until recently guards and fellow inmates made him aware of how much the case has blown up around the world. A source told People, Chris feels like no one understands him and that nobody knows what happened. He thinks if people would understand, they would realize he isn't the monster everybody says he is. After 2 months, the autopsy reports of Shanann Watts and her 2 daughters have been turned over to the court by the expressed concern there may not be enough DNA evidence for the murder conviction. The autopsy reports of the mother and her 2 children have been completed and handed over to the husband and father, Chris Watts, who was the husband and father of the murder victims. He is also the alleged killer of them all, even though he claims he didn't murder his children, Bella and Celeste, but his wife did, claiming due to his wife Shanann murdering their 2 little girls, he should have strangled her in a fit of rage. But nobody is buying that explanation. It has been said that this allegation against his murdered wife just doesn't hold water. What has come forward due to the autopsy will remain a secret, and the report will be kept under seal due to a request from the prosecution. Sources have told that Chris has a Bible and pictures of his murdered family in his cell. If he has several pictures or just one is unclear, but it is said he has one where Shanann, Bella and Celeste are pictured. It has been told Chris has expressed to the one source he has contact to that he had nothing to do now than reflect on what happened, and that's more or less it. Chris is now spending 23 hours a day in his cell under close watch protocol, a technical name for suicide watch. Chris, who speaks to guards from time to time, has the opportunity to talk to other inmates, but he is keeping a low profile. The source close to Chris tells he is sleeping a lot, he is reading the Bible, and then he is just sitting there looking at the picture of his slain family. Chris was a former employee by Anadarko Petroleum. Anadarko fired him the same day he was arrested for allegedly killing his pregnant wife and 2 little daughters. Attorney Michael Rook wrote in a motion that the Colorado Bureau of Investigation has developed possible barefoot impressions from items of evidence. The motion does not describe the items of evidence, but Rook does say they were collected at the scene where the bodies of Shanann and her children Bella and Celeste were found. Due to the alleged barefoot prints at the scene, the prosecutors have requested the court to order Watts to provide inked footprints. Chris remains jailed in Weld County as he awaits a status conference set for November 19th. Here is the latest news. Chris has agreed to a plea deal to avoid the possibility of a death sentence, as he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder at the Weld County. His voice was shaking. Chris also admitted 2 counts of murdering a child under the age of 12, tampering with the bodies of his 3 victims, and unlawfully terminating a pregnancy. Due to Colorado law, a first-degree murder conviction gives a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Mr. Rook said he deserves a life sentence for each and every act. Rook traveled to North Carolina, where Shanann's family lives, to consult with them before he entered into the deal. Chris could have faced the death penalty if he got convicted in a trial, but under the plea agreement, prosecutors pleaded not to seek the sentence. Prosecutors have not told what they think might have been the motivation for Chris to murder his wife and children. Please stay tuned for more information about this case and other cases. If you want to be sure to keep up with the latest in true crime, consider subscribing and remember to click the little bell to get notifications when we have a new video up for you. To get all the news we share, make sure to follow us on all our social media sites. You find the links in the description.